Billionaire CEO called her infertile. She returns as his defense attorney with his secret twins. Your Honor, my client pleads not guilty to all charges. And for the record, I should mention that the last time Donovan Blackmore saw me, he diagnosed me as a barren woman incapable of giving him heirs. Imagine his surprise when he discovers his defense attorney has been raising his twins for the past 7 years. The words hung in the courtroom like a guillotine blade waiting to fall. I, Veronica Sinclair, stood at the defense table in a custom Versace suit that cost more than I'd made in 3 years at his company. My client, the man who destroyed me with medical reports and cruel words, sat frozen beside me. Those Arctic blue eyes that had once looked at me with such disgust now widened with shock that quickly morphed into calculating assessment. The prosecution objected, of course. Personal history between attorney and client wasn't relevant to insider trading charges. But I'd already made my point. The great Donovan Blackmore, CEO of Blackmore Industries, the man who controlled half of Wall Street's technology sector, was completely at my mercy. And he had no idea that back at my hotel, 2 7-year-old children with his eyes and my stubborn chin were doing homework with their nanny. The judge called for a recess, and Donovan grabbed my arm the moment we were in the private conference room. His grip was exactly as I remembered. Firm, possessive, electric. Veronica, what the hell are you doing here? My job. I'm the best criminal defense attorney in the country. Your board hired me because you're facing 20 years in federal prison. The fact that we have history is irrelevant to my ability to keep you out of an orange jumpsuit. History. His laugh was bitter. We were married for 3 years. We're being the operative word. I pulled my arm free, setting my briefcase on the table with deliberate calm. Now, shall we discuss your defense strategy? Or would you prefer to reminisce about how you threw me out of our penthouse with nothing but the clothes on my back after your fertility specialist friend confirmed I was the problem? That's not exactly what happened. No, you're right. First, you had me tested by 3 different specialists, all of whom you'd gone to Yale with. Then you had your lawyers draw up divorce papers citing my inability to provide heirs as grounds for annulment. Then you threw me out. My apologies for abbreviating. Have you ever watched someone realize they've made a catastrophic error in judgment? That's what I saw flicker across Donovan's face before his CEO mask slammed back into place. But I knew him. Knew every tell, every micro-expression, every defense mechanism. 7 years ago, I'd loved him with the kind of desperate devotion that makes you lose yourself. Now I was about to save his life while destroying his peace of mind. If you're watching this and thinking revenge is a dish best served cold, let me tell you, sometimes it's served in a courtroom at exactly 98.6 degrees, body temperature, with 2 DNA tests in your briefcase and custody papers already drawn up. Let me take you back to where this really started. Not 7 years ago when he discarded me like defective merchandise, but 6 months ago when his legal team called me in Paris, where I'd built my new life, begging me to take his case. Ms. Sinclair, Thomas Whitman's voice had been desperate over the phone. He was Blackmore Industries' chief legal counsel and had no idea who I used to be. Different last name, different continent, different life. We need the best, and you're it. Donovan Blackmore has been charged with insider trading, fraud, and conspiracy. The evidence is substantial. The Blackmore case is all over the news. I'd replied, watching my twins play in the Luxembourg Gardens from my apartment window. Why should I care about another billionaire who thought he was above the law? Because he's innocent. And because we're prepared to pay your requested fee of $50 million. $50 million. I'd nearly laughed. That was my fuck-off price, the number I quoted when I didn't want a case. But for Donovan, for the chance to stand face-to-face with him again, I'll take it. On one condition. I choose my own team, no interference from your corporate lawyers, and Donovan follows my lead completely. No questions, no pushback, complete trust. Done. Thomas had agreed too quickly, which told me they were more desperate than they were letting on. I'd spent 3 months preparing before returning to New York. 3 months studying every detail of his case, his life, his business. He'd remarried 2 years after our divorce, a senator's daughter named Arabella who'd given him the heir he'd wanted so desperately. A son named James, now 4 years old. But Arabella had died in a car accident 18 months ago, leaving Donovan a single father under federal investigation. The universe had a sick sense of humor. My twins, Christopher and Sophia, had been confused about the sudden move to New York. But Mom, we like Paris. Sophia had protested in perfect French. Our friends are there. Our school is there. It's temporary, sweetheart. Mommy has an important case. We'll be back before you know it. Is it a bad person? Christopher had asked, always the more serious twin. The one you're defending. It's complicated, baby. Sometimes good people do bad things. Sometimes bad people need good lawyers. And sometimes, I'd thought, but didn't say, sometimes mothers need to show fathers what they threw away. Now, sitting across from Donovan in that conference room, watching him process my presence, I pulled out the case files. The prosecution claims you made $17 million from trades based on information your CFO leaked to you about the Xantech merger. I said, professional to my core. They have emails, recorded conversations, and transaction records. I didn't do it. His voice was rough. I would never. I know. I said simply, and his head snapped up. You're many things, Donovan. Cruel, controlling, obsessed with legacy. But you're not stupid enough to risk everything for $17 million when you're worth $3 billion. You believe me. I believe you're too arrogant to cheat. You'd see insider trading as beneath you, as something weak men do when they can't win legitimately. Your ego would never allow it. He laughed, the sound surprised out of him. Still know me so well. I knew you. Past tense. The man I knew wouldn't have fabricated medical reports to justify abandoning his wife. The reports weren't fabricated. Dr. Morrison confirmed. Dr. Morrison confirmed what you paid him to confirm. Funny thing about medical records, they can be re-examined. Especially when the supposedly infertile woman has given birth to healthy twins. The silence that followed could have suffocated us both. Donovan went absolutely still, the kind of stillness that preceded either violence or collapse. Twins. His voice was barely a whisper. 7 years old. Born 8 months after you had security escort me from our home. Congratulations, you're a father twice over. Though legally, you're nothing to them. My husband adopted them last year. Your husband, Francois Dubois, French diplomat. Wonderful stepfather. The twins adore him. Of course, he doesn't know their biological father is my current client. That would be awkward at dinner parties. It was a lie. There was no Francois, no adoption, no one but me and the twins I'd raised alone. But Donovan didn't need to know that. Not yet. I want a DNA test. I'm sure you do. But we're here to discuss your case, not my children. Children you made very clear you wanted nothing to do with when you decided I was defective. That's not. I never said defective. You said, and I quote, a woman who can't provide heirs is like a Ferrari with no engine. Beautiful, but ultimately useless. Would you like me to pull up the divorce transcript? I had a court reporter present when you threw me out. Planning ahead and all that. His face had gone pale under his perfect tan. I'd won this round, but there was no satisfaction in it. Just the hollow ache of old wounds torn open. Why are you really here, Veronica? Why take my case? Because I'm the only one who can win it. Because despite everything, I don't believe you deserve prison for a crime you didn't commit. And because, I paused, meeting his eyes directly. Because I wanted you to know that the woman you diagnosed as broken went on to have everything you said I couldn't. Success, children, a life that doesn't revolve around your approval. I don't recognize you. He said after a long moment. The Veronica I knew was soft, accommodating. She would never. The Veronica you knew died in the parking garage of our building, crying over medical reports you had falsified. This Veronica was born from her ashes. Now, shall we discuss how I'm going to save your ass? Or do you want to keep taking trips down memory lane? We worked for 3 hours, going over every detail of the case. I was brilliant, if I do say so myself. 7 years of fury channeled into legal strategy. I found holes in the prosecution's timeline, inconsistencies in their witnesses' statements, technical errors in their evidence handling. Donovan watched me work with something like awe, seeing the lawyer I'd become instead of the wife I'd been. You weren't practicing law when we were married, he said as I packed up my files. No, I was too busy trying to be the perfect wife. Hosting your dinner parties, charming your investors, pretending I didn't mind when you worked 20-hour days. I went to law school after you threw me out. Turns out rage is an excellent motivator for academic excellence. Where did you go? Harvard. Full scholarship after I wrote my admissions essay about surviving spousal abandonment due to medical discrimination. They ate it up. Then Oxford for international law. The Sorbonne for French legal certification. I've argued cases before the World Court, saved 3 heads of state from prosecution, and never lost a case. You're in good hands. All that in 7 years. 7 years, 2 months, and 16 days. But who's counting? The twins. His voice stopped me at the door. Are they? Do they look? They look like miracles, I said without turning around. The kind of miracles supposedly infertile women aren't supposed to have. I left him there, walking out of the conference room with my head high and my heart racing. The hardest part was over. He knew I was here. He knew about the twins. Now came the delicate dance of saving him while destroying him, protecting my children while forcing him to face what he'd lost. My hotel suite at the St. Regis was obscenely luxurious, the kind of place I never could have afforded as Mrs. Blackmore, but could easily manage as Veronica Sinclair, international legal sensation. The twins were at the dining table with their tutor, heads bent over mathematics workbooks. Maman, Sophia called out in French, our secret language that made us a unit. How was your day? Complicated, mon cœur, but productive. How was yours? Christopher showed us the Natural History Museum. Christopher said, switching to English for the tutor's benefit. Did you know some dinosaurs had feathers? I didn't know that. Just like I know it's almost bedtime. But Mom, it's only 8. Christopher protested. And we have court at 9 tomorrow. I need my assistants well rested. We get to come to court. Sophia's eyes lit up. To my office in the courthouse. MS. Patterson will watch you there. But yes, you'll be nearby. I'd been bringing them to courthouses since they were babies. They were comfortable in legal settings the way other children were comfortable in playgrounds. They knew when to be quiet, when to charm judicial assistants, when to disappear into their books and tablets. That night, after they were asleep, I stood at the window looking out at the city I'd once called home. Somewhere out there, Donovan was probably pacing his penthouse, trying to process what I'd told him, trying to figure out my angle, my real motive. He wouldn't figure it out, not until it was too late. Because my plan wasn't just about revenge or justice or even the $50 million his company was paying me. It was about something much more complex. I was going to save him from prison, yes, but I was also going to make him fall in love with his children. Then I was going to take them away, just like he'd taken everything from me. He'd know they existed, know they were brilliant and beautiful and his, and know he had no right to them. It was cruel. It was calculated. It was exactly what he deserved. The next morning brought a circus of media attention. The prosecution had leaked just enough information to make Donovan look guilty in the court of public opinion. As we walked up the courthouse steps, reporters shouted questions. Mr. Blackmore, how do you explain the $17 million in your offshore accounts? Miss Sinclair, why did you take this case? Is it true you two have a personal history? That last one made me pause. I turned to the reporter, a young woman with hungry eyes. Mr. Blackmore and I knew each other briefly many years ago. I said smoothly, but I'm here as his attorney, nothing more. My personal feelings about my client are irrelevant to his innocence. What personal feelings? Someone shouted. The kind that come from watching a man destroy everything good in his life and then beg for help when the consequences arrive. I smiled sweetly. No further questions. Inside the courthouse, Donovan grabbed my elbow. Was that necessary? Everything I do is necessary. And if you touch me again without permission, I'll recuse myself from your case, and you can take your chances with a public defender. He released me immediately. I'm sorry. The twins. I need to know. You need to focus on not going to prison. Your son James needs his father, doesn't he? For years old, lost his mother, about to lose his father to federal prison if we're not careful. That's who you should be thinking about. You know about James. I know everything about you, Donovan. Your morning routine, your coffee preference, your Thursday racquetball games with Senator Morrison, your girlfriend Cassandra who you've been seeing for 3 months but haven't introduced to James yet, your mother's early onset dementia that you're hiding from the board. I know it all. How? Because I'm very good at my job. And because studying you for 3 months was like performing an autopsy on my marriage. Fascinating and nauseating in equal measure. The prosecutor, Janet Holbrook, was a shark in human form. She'd put away 3 CEOs in the last 5 years and had a 92% conviction rate. She looked at me with professional respect and personal curiosity. Miss Sinclair, I followed your work on the Petrov case. Brilliant defense. Ms. Holbrook, I admire your commitment to justice. Pity it's misdirected in this case. We'll see about that. She smiled all teeth. Your client's emails speak for themselves. Emails can be fabricated, timestamps altered, contexts manipulated. But you know that already. The morning session was preliminary motions and jury selection. I was ruthless, dismissing anyone who showed even a hint of bias against wealth or corporate America. But I also dismissed anyone who seemed too sympathetic to powerful men. I wanted a jury that would listen to facts, not feelings. Donovan sat beside me, tension radiating from his body. He kept glancing at me, questions burning in his eyes. But in court, I was a machine. Focused, brilliant, untouchable. During the lunch break, I left him with his corporate lawyers and went to my courthouse office where the twins were playing chess. Christopher's winning. Sophia announced, annoyed. He always wins. You win at languages. Christopher replied diplomatically. We're even. My brilliant, competitive children. They'd inherited Donovan's strategic mind and my determination, a combination that would either save or damn them. Mom, who's the sad man? Sophia asked suddenly. What sad man, sweetheart? The one you're defending. We saw him on the news. He looks sad. Sometimes people look sad when they're in trouble. Is he a bad man? Christopher asked, echoing his question from Paris. I looked at my children, really looked at them. Christopher had Donovan's exact eyes, that piercing blue that could freeze or burn. Sophia had his jawline, his stubborn chin. They were so obviously his that it hurt. He's a complicated man who made bad choices. But no, I don't think he's bad. Just lost. Can lost people be found? Sophia asked. Sometimes. But sometimes they have to find themselves. That afternoon's session was the prosecution's opening statement. Janet Holbrook painted Donovan as a greedy corporate titan who'd used insider information to make millions while ordinary investors lost everything. She had charts, graphs, dramatic pauses. It was theater, and she was good at it. But I was better. Ladies and gentlemen of the jury. I began, standing slowly, letting the moment build. The prosecution wants you to believe that my client, a man worth $3 billion, risked everything, his reputation, his company, his freedom, for $17 million. That's like suggesting someone who owns a yacht would steal a rowboat. It's not just unlikely. It's absurd. I walked them through the timeline, showing how Donovan had been in Tokyo when the supposed insider trades were made, how the emails were sent from an IP address he'd never used, how the offshore accounts were opened with documentation he'd never signed. Someone did commit insider trading, but it wasn't Donovan Blackmore. He's not the criminal here. He's the fall guy. And over the course of this trial, I'm going to show you exactly who set him up and why. It was a bold claim, but I had evidence. 3 months of investigation had revealed the truth. His CFO, Robert Henley, had been embezzling for years. When Donovan had started asking questions, Robert had created an elaborate frame-up, making it look like Donovan was the criminal. That evening, Donovan insisted on dinner to discuss strategy. I chose the restaurant, a small Italian place in Brooklyn where we wouldn't be recognized. He looked out of place in his $3,000 suit among the families and college students. This was the kind of place you always wanted to go, he said, remembering. I always insisted on Lou Bernardine or Daniel. You insisted on being seen at the right places with the right people. I corrected. I just wanted good pasta and honest conversation. We never had much of that. Honest conversation. No. We had your monologues about market strategies and my performance reviews disguised as pillow talk. Veronica, you need to charm the Hendersons at dinner. Veronica, your dress is too conservative for the gala. Veronica, when are you going to give me an heir? I was an ass. You were exactly who you told me you were from the beginning. I was just too in love to listen. You loved me. He sounded surprised. Desperately. Pathetically. The kind of love that makes you lose yourself completely. I became what you wanted. The perfect corporate wife. The hostess. The ornament. Everything except the one thing you actually needed. A broodmare. Don't say it like that. How should I say it? You literally had me tested like livestock. 3 fertility SP. After our divorce, I saw a real doctor. Not one of your Yale buddies. Turns out I had a simple hormonal imbalance. 3 months of treatment, and I was pregnant. That's impossible. Morrison said. Morrison said what you paid him to say. You needed grounds for annulment that wouldn't trigger the prenup. Infertility was cleaner than adultery, wasn't it? I never cheated on you. No, you just paid doctors to lie about my body. So much more civilized. Our food arrived, but neither of us ate much. The weight of our history sat between us like an unwelcome dinner guest. The twins. He said finally. Tell me about them. No. Veronica, please. They're nothing to you. You made that clear when you threw me away. They're mine. Mine to protect. Mine to raise. Mine to keep far away from a man who values legacy over love. I've changed. Have you? Is that why you're dating a senator's niece? Already planning the next trophy wife to give you more heirs? Cassandra means nothing. Women never mean anything to you beyond their function. I was supposed to be the breeder. When that failed, you moved on. Arabella was the political connection and successful breeder. Cassandra will be whatever you need next. You're being cruel. I'm being honest. Something we never were when we were married. My phone buzzed with a text from the nanny. The twins were asking for me. I stood to leave. I want to meet them. He said desperately. I have rights. You have exactly 0 rights. I pulled out a document from my purse. Your signature on our divorce papers, stating you wanted no financial or custodial claim on any potential offspring from our union. Ironclad, legally binding, and witnessed by 3 of your own lawyers. I didn't know you were pregnant. No, you just wanted to make sure that if I somehow managed to have children later, they couldn't come after your fortune. Congratulations. You protected yourself right out of fatherhood. I left him there with the check and the weight of his choices. Back at the hotel, the twins were in their pajamas, ready for bed, but waiting for me. Mom, are you sad? Christopher asked, always the emotional barometer. Why would I be sad, sweetheart? You look like you've been crying. I hadn't realized I had been. Happy tears, baby. Sometimes grown-ups cry when they're feeling too many things at once. Like when we watched The Lion King. Sophia offered. Exactly like that. I tucked them in, singing the French lullaby my mother had sung to me before she died. They were asleep before I finished, but I kept singing anyway, needing the comfort of routine. That night, I worked on Donovan's case until 3 a.m. I'd found the smoking gun, proof that Robert Henley had not only framed Donovan, but had been stealing from the company for 5 years. The FBI would be very interested in what I'd uncovered, but I wasn't ready to play that card yet. First, I wanted Donovan to twist a little longer. To feel what it was like to have your future in someone else's hands. The next day in court was brutal. The prosecution presented email after email, each one seemingly more damning than the last. Donovan looked guilty as sin to anyone who didn't know what I knew. But I let it happen. Let Janet Holbrook build her case brick by brick. Because I was going to demolish it with one swing. During a recess, Donovan cornered me in the hallway. What are you doing? You're not even objecting. I'm letting her overplay her hand. Trust me. Trust you. You hate me. I do. I admit it. But I hate losing more. And I'm not going to lose this case. Why do you hate me? Because of the divorce. Because you looked at me like I was broken. Because you made me believe I was worthless without the ability to give you children. Because you took the best parts of me and convinced me they weren't enough. Veronica, don't. We're not those people anymore. You're my client. I'm your attorney. That's all. But it wasn't all, and we both knew it. The chemistry that had drawn us together 8 years ago was still there, crackling beneath the anger and hurt. It was infuriating. How could I still be attracted to someone who'd wounded me so deeply? That afternoon, I began my cross-examination of the prosecution's first witness, Donovan's assistant, Patricia Wells. She'd been with him for 10 years, longer than our marriage had lasted. Ms. Wells, you testified that Mr. Blackmore was in the office when these emails were sent. I began. But weren't you on vacation that week? She looked flustered. I was checking emails remotely. From Cabo San Lucas. How dedicated. Tell me, how could you know Mr. Blackmore's physical location from a beach in Mexico? I saw his calendar. His calendar showed he was in Tokyo. Which is it, Ms. Wells? Was he in the office or was he in Tokyo? She crumbled under my questioning, admitting she'd been coached by someone to say Donovan was in New York. That someone would turn out to be Robert Henley. Over the next 3 days, I systematically destroyed every prosecution witness. I was surgical, precise, devastating. Janet Holbrook watched her case fall apart with the kind of professional respect one predator shows another. But the real bombshell came on day 4. Your Honor, I'd like to call a surprise witness. Robert Henley. The prosecution objected, but I'd followed procedure. Robert had been subpoenaed but had claimed to be too ill to testify. Except I'd had him under surveillance, and he'd been perfectly healthy at his country club yesterday. They brought him in, and he looked like a man walking to his execution, which, professionally speaking, he was. Mr. Henley, I began, prowling like a cat with a mouse. You've been CFO of Blackmore Industries for 8 years, correct? Yes. And in that time, you've had complete access to all financial systems, all accounts, all passwords. That's standard for a CFO. Is it also standard for a CFO to embezzle $43 million over 5 years? The courtroom erupted. Janet Holbrook shot to her feet, objecting, but I had the evidence. Bank records, forged signatures, a complex web of shell companies, all leading back to Robert Henley. When Mr. Blackmore started asking questions about discrepancies, you panicked, didn't you? You needed him gone before he discovered your theft. So you created these fake insider trades, used his access codes which you had as CFO, and framed him for your crimes. Robert broke. Completely. He confessed everything, right there on the stand. The embezzlement, the frame-up, even bribing Patricia Wells to lie about Donovan's whereabouts. The case was dismissed with prejudice that afternoon. Donovan was free, cleared of all charges, and looking at me like I'd performed a miracle. How did you know? He asked as we stood on the courthouse steps. How did you know it was Robert? Because I know you. You're arrogant, controlling, and emotionally stunted. But you're not a thief. You'd see stealing as beneath you. Robert, on the other hand, always resented you. Always felt he deserved more. He had the means and the motive. I just had to find the proof. You saved my life. I saved your freedom. There's a difference. Your life is still the empty kingdom you built. Mine is full of laughter and chaos and little hands that hold mine when we cross the street. The twins. Please, Veronica, just let me see them. Once. I looked at him, this man who'd been my husband, my destroyer, my client. The father of my children who didn't know they existed in the same city, the same building at this very moment. They're here, I heard myself say, in my courthouse office. But Donovan, if you hurt them, if you disappoint them, if you so much as make them frown, I will destroy you in ways that will make federal prison look like a vacation. He nodded, speechless. We walked to my office in silence, my heart pounding with each step. This wasn't part of the plan. But plans change. Revenge evolves. And sometimes, the cruelest thing you can do to someone is show them exactly what they threw away. I opened the door to find Christopher and Sophia playing a board game with their nanny. They looked up, curious about the stranger with their mother. Mes amours, I said in French. This is Mr. Blackmore. He's an old friend. The man from the news. Sophia said in English, always the bold one. You're the sad man. I suppose I am. Donovan said, his voice rough. And you are. I'm Sophia. This is Christopher. We're twins. I can see that. You're beautiful. Both of you. Mom says we get our eyes from our father. Christopher said innocently, and I watched Donovan flinch. You must have a wonderful father. Donovan managed. We've never met him. Sophia said matter-of-factly. Mom says he lives far away. Not as far as you'd think. I muttered in French, and Sophia giggled. Mom says things in French when she doesn't want other people to understand. She told Christopher, but we understand everything. Do you speak French? Christopher asked Donovan. No, but I'd like to learn. Maybe you could teach me. Maybe. Sophia sized him up. Do you play chess? I do. Christopher's really good. Nobody ever beats him. I bet I could give him a good game. Donovan looked at me, asking permission. I nodded, against every instinct. Christopher set up the board, and within minutes, they were deep in concentration. Sophia climbed onto my lap, whispering her commentary in French. He plays like Christopher, she observed, always thinking 3 moves ahead. They're very similar. I agreed, my heart breaking a little. For an hour, I watched Donovan interact with his children. He was different with them. Softer, more patient than I'd ever seen him. He let Christopher win the first game, but Christopher caught on. You let me win. My son accused. That's insulting. You're right. I apologize. Donovan reset the board. Real game this time. The second game was brutal. Christopher played with the focus of someone 3 times his age, and Donovan matched him move for move. They were so obviously father and son it hurt to watch. Checkmate. Christopher finally announced, triumphant. Brilliant. Donovan said, and meant it. Absolutely brilliant. You play like a grandmaster. Mom taught us. Sophia said proudly. She says chess is like life. You have to think ahead and protect your king. Your mother is very wise. She's the smartest person in the world, Christopher said with the certainty only a 7-year-old could have. She speaks 5 languages and never loses cases and makes the best croque monsieur in Paris. You lived in Paris for 6 years, Sophia said. But we moved here for Mom's big case. We're going back soon. Are you? Donovan looked at me. The case is finished. We have no reason to stay. The twins' nanny announced it was time for dinner. They said goodbye to Donovan politely, the way I'd taught them to treat strangers. Christopher shook his hand solemnly. Sophia waved. Then they were gone, leaving us alone in the office. They're perfect, he said, his voice broken. They're absolutely perfect. They're mine. They're mine too. His eyes blazed. My eyes, my mind, my stubborn streak. You can deny it all you want, but those are my children. Biologically, yes. Legally, emotionally, practically. They're mine. You made your choice 7 years ago. I didn't know. You didn't want to know. There's a difference. We stood there, 2 parents separated by an ocean of hurt and years of absence. The late afternoon sun slanted through the windows, painting everything gold. I want to know them, he said finally. I want to be in their lives. You want? I laughed bitterly. You wanted an heir. You got James. Be satisfied with that. James needs siblings. They need a father. They need stability. They need consistency. They need someone who won't abandon them when they're inconvenient. I wouldn't. You did. You abandoned me when I couldn't give you what you wanted. Why should I believe you'd be different with them? Because losing you nearly killed me. He said it quietly, but it landed like a bomb. Because I've spent 7 years wondering what would have happened if I'd been less stupid. Because I built an empire, and it means nothing without family to share it with. You had Arabella. You had your perfect political marriage and your heir. I had a business arrangement that produced a son. Arabella and I were partners, not lovers. We lived separate lives in the same house. She had her affairs, I had my work, and James had nannies. It was exactly the cold, corporate family I thought I wanted. And it was miserable. I'm supposed to feel sorry for you. No, you're supposed to understand that I know what I lost now. I know what I threw away. And I'm asking, begging, for a chance to be part of their lives. Not as their father if you won't allow it, but as something, anything. I studied him, this man who'd broken me so thoroughly I'd had to rebuild myself from scratch. He looked older, tired, worn down by success that had cost him everything worth having. The Donovan I'd married would never have begged, would never have admitted fault, would never have played chess with a 7-year-old and meant it when he said they were brilliant. I'll think about it, I said finally. But there are conditions. Anything. You don't tell them who you are. Not yet. Maybe not ever. That's my decision to make. Agreed. You follow my lead completely. If I say you're done seeing them, you're done. No lawyers, no custody battles, no drama. Agreed. And you pay for their education. Not because you have to, but because they deserve the best. I've already set up trust funds. He admitted. 5 million each. The papers are in my office waiting for your signature. You presumptuous ass. I'm their father. Presumptuous comes with the territory. We left the courthouse together, but in separate cars. I had to get back to the twins, to our real life. He had to process what had happened, what he'd learned, what he'd lost and might possibly gain. That night, as I tucked the twins into bed, Christopher asked me a question that stopped my heart. Mom, is Mr. Blackmore our father? I froze, one hand on his forehead. What makes you ask that, sweetheart? He has our eyes. And he plays chess like us. And he looked at you the way the dads at school look at the moms. I struggled for words. He's someone I knew a long time ago, before you were born. But is he our father? Christopher persisted, because he was his father's son and never let anything go. That's a complicated question with a complicated answer. And you're 7. Can we save the complicated answers for when you're older? When we're 8. Sophia negotiated. When you're 18. 10. Christopher countered. 16. 12. Both twins said in unison their final offer. 14. And that's final. They agreed, because they were smart enough to know when they'd pushed as far as they could. But I saw the looks they exchanged. They knew. On some level, they already knew. The next morning brought a complication I hadn't anticipated. Donovan Blackmore, CEO of a Fortune 500 company, was sitting in the lobby of my hotel at 7 a.m. with coffee and croissants from the French bakery the twins loved. What are you doing here? I hissed, conscious of the twins eating breakfast upstairs. I thought we could talk. About arrangements. Schedules. How this is going to work? This isn't going to work if you ambush me at my hotel. How did you even know where we're staying? I own the hotel, he said simply, as if that explained everything. I own several in the city. This one was always your favorite. You've been stalking me. I've been ensuring you had the best possible accommodations. There's a difference. Is there? Because from where I'm standing, it looks like you've been monitoring my movements through hotel ownership. That's creepy, Donovan, even for you. I bought this hotel 3 years ago. He admitted. I knew that if you ever came back to New York, you'd stay here. You always loved the view from the penthouse suite. The penthouse suite you never let me book when we were married because it was too expensive for a weekend staycation. I was an idiot about money, acting like we needed to be frugal when I was worth billions. Another way I failed you. Stop it. Stop this revisionist history where you suddenly understand all your mistakes. You don't get to rewrite our past just because you want a future with our children. Our children. You said our children. Slip of the tongue. They're my children. You're just the sperm donor who didn't know he was donating. The twins appeared then, dressed for school in their French Academy uniforms. They'd insisted on continuing their French education even in New York, and I'd found them a suitable school in the Upper East Side. Mr. Blackmore, Sophia said, surprised but pleased. Did you come to have breakfast with us? I came to talk to your mother, but breakfast sounds wonderful if you'll have me. Christopher studied him with those two perceptive eyes. Mom doesn't like surprises. You should have called first. You're absolutely right. Donovan said seriously. I apologize. Would it be okay if I joined you now that I'm here? I brought croissants from Patisserie Margot. You know Patisserie Margot? Sophia's eyes widened. They have the best pain au chocolate in New York. Not as good as Pierre's in Paris. Christopher said loyally. But acceptable. High praise. Donovan smiled, and it was genuine, warm, nothing like the calculated smiles he'd given during our marriage. May I sit? The twins looked at me. I wanted to say no, to protect them from disappointment, to protect myself from hope. But their faces were so expectant, and Donovan had brought their favorite croissants, and I was tired of being the wall between them and their father. 15 minutes. Then you have school. Breakfast was surreal. Donovan asked them about their studies, their interests, their life in Paris. They told him about their school, their friends, their favorite museums. Christopher explained his obsession with astronomy. Sophia described her love of languages, how she was learning Mandarin to add to her French, English, and Spanish. For languages at 7. Donovan looked at me. That's extraordinary. Their mother speaks 5. Christopher said proudly. She says languages are doors to other worlds. Your mother is right. I only speak 3 myself. English, Japanese, and broken Italian. You speak Japanese. Sophia was impressed. Could you teach us? If your mother agrees. Donovan glanced at me. I could come by once a week. Language lessons. The twins turned their puppy eyes on me, the ones I could never resist. I knew I was being manipulated by all 3 of them, but somehow I heard myself agreeing. Once a week. 1 hour. And if you miss even one session without a valid excuse, we're done. I won't miss any. After dropping the twins at school, I had every intention of going to my office to pack up the case files. Instead, Donovan followed me, uninvited but impossible to shake. We need to talk about logistics, he said, falling into step beside me. What logistics? You come once a week, teach them Japanese, then leave. Simple. Nothing about this is simple. They're my children, Veronica. My blood, my DNA, my responsibility. They were your responsibility, 7. Responsibility. About doing what's right. What's right? I stopped walking, turning to face him. What's right would have been believing me when I said I wanted children. What's right would have been getting a second opinion from a doctor you didn't go to school with. What's right would have been loving me more than you love the idea of a perfect heir. I did love you. You loved owning me. There's a difference. We stood there on the sidewalk, morning commuters flowing around us like we were rocks in a stream. The October air was crisp, autumn in New York painting everything in golds and reds that reminded me of our wedding. October 15th, 8 years ago. Our anniversary would have been next week. I know when our anniversary is, he said, reading my mind the way he sometimes could. October 15th. I've never forgotten. You forgot when you were married to Arabella. No, I got drunk every October 15th. She knew better than to ask why. Just like she knew better than to ask why I kept your photo in my office drawer. Stop it. Stop what? Stop trying to rewrite history. Stop pretending you pined for me while married to another woman. Stop acting like you're the victim in this story. I'm not the victim. I'm the villain. I know that. But even villains can seek redemption. Not from the people they destroyed. Find your redemption elsewhere. There is no elsewhere. You and the twins are my only chance at being more than the cold bastard who dies alone in his penthouse. Then I guess you'll die alone. It was cruel, but I needed the walls between us. Because the truth I couldn't speak was that I still loved him. 7 years of hate hadn't killed it. Success hadn't replaced it. Even the twins hadn't filled the hole he'd left. I loved him, and I hated myself for it. My phone rang. The twins' school. There had been an incident. We arrived at the school to find Christopher in the nurse's office with a black eye and Sophia in the principal's office for fighting. The story came out in pieces. Some boys had been making fun of Christopher for not having a father. Sophia had defended him with her fists. Christopher had jumped in to protect Sophia. It had escalated from there. Fighting is never the answer. The principal, Mrs. Worthington, said primly, "We have a zero-tolerance policy." "What about a zero-tolerance policy for bullying?" I asked. "For children tormenting others about their family structure. The boys have been spoken to." "Spoken to? My daughter has a split lip and my son has a black eye, and the bullies have been spoken to." "Mom, it's okay," Christopher said quietly. "We're used to it." That broke my heart more than the injuries. They were used to defending themselves, to being different, to bearing the burden of my choices. "No." Donovan's voice was ice. "It's not okay. Nothing about this is okay." Mrs. Worthington looked at him, clearly recognizing him. "Mr. Blackmore, I didn't realize you were." "I'm there." He paused, glancing at me. "I'm a family friend. A close family friend. And I'm appalled by your handling of this situation. You're punishing victims while giving perpetrators a slap on the wrist. Our policies. Your policies are garbage if they protect bullies and punish children defending themselves. I'll be speaking to your board of directors, several of whom, I might add, owe me favors." "Mr. Blackmore, that's not necessary." "It is absolutely necessary. These children did nothing wrong except exist in a non-traditional family structure. If your school can't protect them, we'll find one that can." "We." He'd said we. Like we were a unit. Like we were parents together. The principal apologized profusely, promised to address the situation properly, and waived any disciplinary action against the twins. We left with ice cream prescriptions for hurt feelings and a promise that the bullying would stop. In the car, Sophia looked at Donovan with new respect. "You scared her. Sometimes people need to be scared into doing the right thing." He replied, "But you shouldn't have fought those boys. They said Christopher's dad didn't want him." Sophia's chin jutted out, stubborn like his. "That's not true. Our dad just doesn't know about us." Donovan's hands tightened on the steering wheel. "And if he did know, what do you think he'd do?" "He'd love us," Christopher said with certainty. "Mom says we're very lovable." "You are." Donovan's voice was rough. "You're the most lovable children in the world. Any father would be lucky to have you." "Do you have children?" Sophia asked innocently. "I have a son. James. He's 4. Is he like us?" "No." Donovan glanced at me in the rearview mirror. "No one is like you two. You're unique." We took them home, settled them with movies and ice cream, and I found myself alone with Donovan on the terrace while the nanny supervised the twins inside. "Thank you," I said quietly, "for defending them. They're my children. Of course I defended them. You don't get to claim them just because you stood up to a principal. I'm not claiming them. I'm just." He ran his hands through his hair, messing it in a way that made him look younger, more like the man I'd fallen in love with. "I'm trying to be whatever you'll let me be. Uncle, family friend, Japanese tutor. Whatever gets me time with them." "Why?" "Because they're incredible. Because they're pieces of you and me combined into something better than either of us alone. Because my son James needs siblings who can challenge him and love him and make him less alone in the world." "James. Tell me about James." His face softened. "He's quiet. Serious. Old soul in a little body. He likes trains and dinosaurs and being read to. He's nothing like me, which is probably a blessing. Arabella always said he was more nanny than either parent. That's sad. Everything about my marriage to Arabella was sad. Two people using each other for status and legacy, with a child as a business transaction. She got the Blackmore name and fortune for her political ambitions. I got the heir I thought I needed. James got parents who didn't know how to love him properly. And now I'm learning. Slowly. Badly. But learning. He comes to the office with me sometimes. We have lunch together every day. I read to him every night. It's not enough, but it's better than before. The twins would love him, would they? Or would they resent him for being the child I chose to have? They don't have a resentful bone in their bodies. I raised them better than that. You raised them perfectly. They're confident, brilliant, kind. Everything children should be. They're also lonely. They have each other, but they want more. A father, siblings, extended family. Things I can't give them alone. I could give them those things. Under what terms? Shared custody. Marriage. What exactly are you proposing? I don't know. He admitted. I just know that I want to be in their lives. In your life. Whatever that looks like. You want the impossible. You want to erase 7 years of absence. You want to pretend throwing me away was just a mistake instead of a revelation of character. You want a ready-made family to replace the one you failed to build with Arabella. Is that really what you think? That I want to use you and the twins as replacements? What else am I supposed to think? You discover you have 2 perfect children and suddenly you're father of the year. It's convenient, isn't it? No pregnancy to deal with. No infant years. No sleepless nights. Just 2 brilliant 7-year-olds ready to adore you. You think I wouldn't have wanted the pregnancy, the infant years, the sleepless nights. His voice rose. You think I wouldn't have held your hair during morning sickness, assembled cribs, walked colicky babies at 3 a.m. I would have done all of it, Veronica. If I'd known, if I'd been less stupid, I would have done everything. But you didn't know because you didn't want to know. You wanted me gone, and you made it happen. You don't get credit for hypothetical parenting. My phone rang. It was my assistant in Paris. There was an emergency with another case. I needed to return immediately. We leave tomorrow. I told Donovan. This, whatever it is over. The twins and I go back to our real life, and you go back to yours. This is real life. These 2 weeks have been more real than the last 7 years. These 2 weeks have been an aberration. A cosmic joke where I save the man who destroyed me while he meets the children he never wanted. We're done here. Are we? Or are you running because you feel it too? Feel what? This. He moved closer, not touching but close enough that I could smell his cologne, the same one he'd worn when we were married. We're still connected, Veronica. 7 years, different continents, other relationships, and we're still connected. We're not connected. We're tangled. There's a difference. And I'm done being strangled by knots you tied. I went inside, leaving him on the terrace. But I watched from the window as he stood there, looking out at the city, his shoulders bent with the weight of what he'd lost. That night, I told the twins we were leaving. But we like it here. Sophia protested. Mr. Blackmore was going to teach us Japanese. And I want to meet his son James. Christopher added. He sounds nice. We can't stay. We have a life in Paris. School, friends, our real home. This could be home too. Sophia said quietly. If you wanted it to be. Baby, it's complicated. You always say that when it's about fathers. Christopher observed. Maybe it's not as complicated as you think. Out of the mouths of babes. But they didn't understand the complexity of loving someone who'd proven themselves capable of cruelty. They didn't understand that some wounds don't heal, they just scar over, and those scars ache when it rains. We were packing when Donovan arrived the next morning with James. I hadn't expected that. The 4-year-old was exactly as described. Quiet, serious, hiding behind his father's leg. James, these are the friends I told you about. Christopher and Sophia. He said gently. Hi, James. Sophia, ever the social butterfly, approached him. Do you like dinosaurs? Christopher has tons of dinosaur books. James nodded shyly. Christopher immediately took this as an invitation to drag him to see his collection. Within minutes, the 3 children were deep in discussion about whether T-Rex or Velociraptor was cooler. He fits, Donovan said quietly, watching them, like he was always meant to be part of their group. Don't do this. Don't use your son to manipulate me. I'm not. I genuinely thought they should meet before you left. James doesn't have many friends. He's too quiet for most kids. Like his father was. Like his father was before a certain law student challenged everything he thought he knew about himself. Don't romanticize our past. You were already formed when we met. Cold, calculating, focused on legacy above all else. I was just too young and in love to see it. You saw it. You saw everything. You just chose to love me anyway. And I threw that gift away like it meant nothing. It did mean nothing. To you. It meant everything. I just didn't know it until it was gone. He pulled out an envelope. Here. Whether you stay or go. What is this? Open it. Inside were custody papers. Joint custody, with me as primary parent, but him acknowledged as father with full visitation rights. Financial provisions that would make the twins some of the wealthiest children in America. And a personal letter to each twin, to be opened when I decided they were ready. You're insane if you think I'm signing these. Read the letters first, then decide. I opened Christopher's letter first. Dear Christopher, I am your father, and I have missed every day of your life so far. This is my fault, not your mother's. She is the strongest, bravest person I know, and she saved you from having a father who wasn't ready to love you properly. But I'm ready now, if you'll have me. I promise to attend every science fair, every chess match, every important moment from now on. I promise to love you whether you're perfect or flawed, successful or struggling. You are my son, and that makes you precious beyond measure. Love. Your father, Sophia's, was similar but personalized to her interests in languages and art. Both letters were genuine, heartfelt, nothing like the formal communications Donovan usually produced. When did you write these? The night after I met them. I couldn't sleep, couldn't stop thinking about all the nights I hadn't been there to tuck them in. So I wrote what I wanted them to know. Mom, we want to stay? Christopher said from the doorway. They'd been listening, of course. In New York. With James and Mr. Blackmore. You were eavesdropping. You were talking really loud. Sophia said, not sorry at all. And James wants us to stay too. He's never had friends before. We can't just uproot our entire life because James needs friends. We need family. Christopher said quietly. We need a father. And he's right there, wanting to be that for us. You don't understand what you're asking. We're asking for a chance. Sophia said. Just like you gave him a chance to teach us Japanese. Give us all a chance to be a family. I looked at my brilliant, manipulative, wonderful children. Then at James, who was watching everything with wide eyes. Then at Donovan, who was trying so hard not to hope. 1 month. I heard myself say, we'll stay 1 more month. Trial period. If it doesn't work, we go back to Paris, and that's final. The twins cheered. James smiled for the first time. And Donovan looked at me like I'd given him the world. That month changed everything. We fell into a routine that shouldn't have worked, but did. Donovan picked the twins up from school twice a week for Japanese lessons that were really excuses to bond. James joined them, the 3 children becoming inseparable. Weekends were spent at museums, parks, the zoo. Family dinners where we pretended we were normal people instead of walking wounded trying to heal. The twins thrived. Christopher had a father to play chess with, someone who understood his strategic mind. Sophia had someone to debate with, to challenge her quick wit. And James bloomed under their attention, becoming more talkative, more confident, more childlike. But it wasn't just the children who were changing. Donovan was different. He'd canceled 3 major deals to attend school plays. He'd learned to cook because Sophia mentioned she missed home-cooked meals. He read parenting books and actually implemented the advice. He was trying so hard it was painful to watch. And I was falling in love with him again. Or maybe I was just finally admitting I'd never stopped. It came to a head on October 15th. Our anniversary that wasn't anymore. I was working late in my hotel suite when he appeared with wine and takeout from the Italian place where we'd had our first date. You remembered. I said, surprised despite myself. I remember everything about you. The way you take your coffee, 2 sugars, no cream. The way you hum when you're thinking. The way you bite your lip when you're trying not to cry. I was just too stupid to value those memories when they were being made. Why are you here, Donovan? Because 8 years ago today, I married the love of my life. And 7 years ago, I destroyed that marriage. And now, I'm trying to find a way to earn forgiveness I don't deserve. Some things can't be forgiven. No, but maybe they can be transformed. Maybe the pain can become something else. Understanding. Growth. Even love, eventually. You think I could love you again? After everything. I think you already do. You just hate yourself for it. He was right, of course. I did love him. Had never stopped. The anger had been easier to carry than the love, but both had been there all along, twisted together like DNA strands. I can't do this. I stood to leave, but he caught my hand. Please, just listen. For 5 minutes. You have 3. I was broken when I met you. He spoke quickly, urgently. Raised by parents who saw emotion as weakness, success as the only measure of worth. You made me believe I could be different. Then my father died, and all his poison came flooding back. The need for legacy, for heirs, for continuation of the bloodline. I became him because I didn't know how else to process losing him. That's not an excuse. No, it's context. I'm not excusing what I did. I'm trying to explain it so you understand that it was never about you being insufficient. It was about me being too damaged to accept love that didn't come with conditions. My love had no conditions. Exactly. And that terrified me. I'd never experienced unconditional love. Didn't know how to receive it or return it. So I destroyed it. I turned you into a business transaction because that was language I understood. And now I've spent 7 years in therapy trying to understand why I threw away the best thing that ever happened to me. Now I've learned to love James without conditions. Now I'm learning to be the father our twins deserve. Now I'm asking for a chance to be the man you deserved all along. Our twins. You keep saying our twins. Because they are ours. Yours by choice and sacrifice and devotion. Mine by biology and belated recognition. Ours by the love we made them with. Even if that love was broken. I was crying then. Tears I'd held back for 7 years. He pulled me against him, and I let him. Let myself be held by the man who'd shattered me. Because sometimes the person who breaks you is the only one who knows where all the pieces go. I can't survive you leaving again. I whispered against his chest. I'm not going anywhere. Never again. You could send me away, and I'd still stay. Set up camp outside your door. Follow you to Paris. Spend the rest of my life proving that I choose you. Choose our children. Choose this family we could build from the ruins of what we were. The children already love you. And you? Do you love me? I've always loved you. Even when I hated you. Especially when I hated you. It would have been easier if I'd felt nothing. Then stay. Don't go back to Paris. Stay and let's try. Not to recapture what we had, but to build something new. Something stronger because it's been tested. Something real because we've both learned what false looks like. What about your company? Your life here? You are my life. You and Christopher and Sophia and James. Everything else is just noise. We made love that night for the first time in 7 years. It was different than before. Less desperate, more deliberate. We knew each other's broken places now, knew where to be gentle, where to be strong. It was reconciliation and resurrection combined. Two people choosing each other after learning they could survive apart. Afterward, lying in the dark, he told me the truth about the medical reports. Morrison didn't lie. He said quietly, the tests were real. You did have fertility issues. But I knew they were treatable. Morrison told me. Said with hormone therapy, you'd likely conceive within a year. I chose not to tell you. Chose to use it as an excuse to leave because I was terrified of being a father. Terrified of failing children the way my father failed me. You knew. You knew I could be treated, and you let me believe I was broken. Yes, it's the worst thing I've ever done. Worse than the divorce. Worse than the abandonment. I let you. Because I couldn't have children. He'd left because he was afraid of having them. The therapy. Did it help? 3 therapists, actually. One for childhood trauma, one for marriage counseling with Arabella that failed spectacularly, and one specifically for learning to parent James. I'm not fixed, might never be completely, but I'm functional, and I'm committed to getting better. The twins can never know that you knew about the treatment option. Agreed. Though they should know the truth about why I left. Age-appropriate version when you think they're ready. They already suspect you're their father. I know. Christopher plays chess exactly like I do. Sophia has my stubborn streak. And they both have my eyes. They're smart kids. They figured it out. What do we tell them? The truth. That I was their father but didn't know about them. That I was sick in the head and heart when their mother and I separated. That I'm trying to be better now. That I love them whether they accept me or not. We talked until dawn, planning a future I'd never imagined. How to tell the twins. How to blend our families. How to navigate co-parenting while rebuilding our relationship. How to protect the children from media attention. How to be better than our own parents had been. The next morning, we told them together. The twins took it remarkably well, probably because they'd already figured it out. Christopher's only question was whether this meant James was really their brother. Sophia wanted to know if she could call Donovan Papa, like she'd heard French children do. James was confused but happy. More family meant more people to love him. And that was all that mattered to a 4-year-old who'd been lonely his whole life. We decided to stay in New York, but keep the Paris apartment. The twins would finish the school year at their French academy. James would join them next year when he was old enough. We'd blend our lives slowly, carefully, with therapy and patience, and the kind of deliberate love that comes from knowing what it costs to lose it. But first, there was something else to handle. The media storm was instant and vicious. Billionaire's secret family revealed. CEO's hidden twins. The nanny who became everything. That last one was particularly insulting since I'd never been a nanny and was now one of the most successful attorneys in the world. But the press loved a rags to riches story, even when it wasn't accurate. We held one press conference to control the narrative. Mr. Blackmore and I were married 8 years ago. I said to the sea of reporters. We divorced due to irreconcilable differences. I was pregnant at the time, but chose not to inform him for personal reasons. We've recently reconnected, and he's establishing a relationship with our children. That's all we'll be saying on the matter. Miss Sinclair, why didn't you tell him about the twins? That's between Mr. Blackmore and myself. Mr. Blackmore, how does it feel to discover you have 2 more children? Like winning the lottery twice. Donovan said, pulling me closer. My children are brilliant, kind, and beautiful like their mother. I'm grateful for the chance to know them. Are you two reconciling romantically? We're focusing on our children. I said, the practiced answer we'd agreed on. But Donovan went off script. We're also focusing on each other. I love this woman. I've loved her for 8 years, even when I was too stupid to show it properly. Whether she takes me back or not, that won't change. The cameras went crazy. I should have been angry at him for the deviation, but I was too busy trying not to cry at the public declaration. That night, after the children were asleep, he proposed. Not with the massive diamond he'd given me the first time, but with a simple band inscribed with 4 names. Christopher, Sophia, James, and mine. Marry me again, he said. Not because I need an heir or want a perfect wife. Marry me because I want to wake up next to you for the rest of my life. Because I want to raise our children together. Because I finally understand that love isn't about what someone can give you, but what you can give them. And I want to give you everything. We've only been back together for a month. We've been together for 8 years. We just had a 7-year break in the middle. That's not how time works. It is for us. Every day I wasn't with you still belonged to you. I just didn't know it. You can't just grand gesture your way back into marriage. Watch me. He pulled out a folder. I've already bought a house. In Westchester. 7 bedrooms because the twins insist on separate rooms and we might want more children. Good schools. Big yard. Neighbors who mind their own business. More children. You want more children. I want whatever you want. If you want more, we'll have more. If you're done, we're done. I just want you. And if I can't, we don't know if the treatments will work again. Then we're already complete. We have 3 perfect children. That's more than I ever deserved. You're assuming I'll say yes. You'll say yes. Because you love me. Because the twins want us together. Because James needs a mother who knows how to love properly. Because we're better together than apart. Because second chances are rare and we'd be idiots to waste ours. Those are logical reasons. What about emotional ones? Because when you look at me, I feel whole. Because when you laugh, I remember joy exists. Because when you held our children for the first time without me, you still gave them my eyes and your mind. Because forgiveness isn't about forgetting, but about choosing to move forward despite remembering. Because I love you more now, knowing I can lose you, than I did when I thought you were permanent. I said yes. Of course I said yes. Not because he was right about everything, but because he was right about enough. We were better together. The children needed both of us. And I was tired of punishing us both for mistakes made by younger, more frightened versions of ourselves. The wedding was small. Just the children, Donovan's mother who cried through the entire ceremony, and Francine, the elderly woman who'd helped me in those early desperate months with the twins. She'd flown in from Paris, clutching the twins' baby photos, weeping at how big they'd grown. The twins were ring bearers. James was the flower boy, taking his job so seriously he measured the distance between each petal toss. We wrote new vows, ones that acknowledged our past while promising a better future. I promise to choose you even when choosing is hard, Donovan said. I promise to stay even when staying is scary. I promise to love you not in spite of our history, but because of what we've learned from it. I promise to forgive but not forget. I said, to trust but verify, to love you while maintaining myself. To build a family that's strong enough to survive our weaknesses and celebrate our strengths. Some people get love right the first time. We weren't those people. We were the ones who had to lose everything to understand its value, who had to break completely to be rebuilt stronger. who had to live without each other to realize we were better together. 6 months later, I was pregnant. The treatments worked faster this time, my body apparently remembering how to do this. Donovan was at every appointment, holding my hair during morning sickness, reading to my belly every night, documenting everything he'd missed the first time. It's just one baby this time. The ultrasound tech announced, and Donovan actually looked disappointed. You wanted twins again. I wanted whatever we got. But twins were special. Our baptism by fire into parenthood. Christopher and Sophia are special because they're ours. This one will be special too. Our fourth child, he said wonderingly. Our second chance baby. All our children are second chance babies. Even James. Second chances at getting it right. The pregnancy was easier than with the twins, but harder than expected for a woman of 35. Donovan worked from home whenever possible. The twins read to the baby daily in 3 languages, and James appointed himself the baby's protector before it was even born. She was born on a spring morning, with her father holding one hand and her siblings waiting eagerly outside. We named her Victoria, for victory over our past and hope for our future. She had Donovan's dark hair and my stubborn chin, a perfect blend of us both. This is what I missed. Donovan whispered, holding Victoria for the first time. This moment, this perfect moment of meeting someone you already love. You have it now. Because you gave it to me. Because you forgave the unforgivable. Because I chose love over anger. It wasn't easy. Still isn't some days. But it's worth it. The twins adapted to big sisterhood with competitive enthusiasm. Who could make Victoria laugh first? Who could teach her to speak first? Who could get her to sleep fastest? James, quieter in his affection, would simply sit beside her crib and read his picture books aloud, sharing his treasures with whispers. Our house in Westchester became the chaotic dream I'd never dared imagine. Breakfast negotiations over who got the last pancake. Homework battles at the dining room table. Family movie nights where we'd fall asleep in a pile on the couch. It was messy and loud and imperfect, and absolutely everything. Donovan changed too. The cold CEO became a man who coached Little League despite not understanding baseball, who learned to braid hair from YouTube tutorials, who could simultaneously close a billion-dollar deal while making unicorn-shaped sandwiches. He wasn't perfect, still struggled with emotional availability sometimes, still defaulted to throwing money at problems. But he was trying, constantly, consciously trying. The twins never asked about why we'd been apart. They seemed to understand on some level that adult relationships were complicated, that love wasn't always linear. They called him Dad now, though Sophia still occasionally used Papa when she wanted something. They'd integrated him into their lives as if he'd always been there, children's hearts being more elastic than adults. 3 years after our remarriage, an opportunity arose that would test everything we'd built. The position is in Singapore, Donovan explained, running the entire Asian division. It's a 5-year commitment minimum, and you want to take it. I want us to take it. All of us. New adventure, new experiences for the children. The international schools are excellent. Uprooting 4 children, one of whom is barely 3, to move across the world for your job. I kept my voice neutral, but he heard the underlying concern. It's not just my job. Your firm has an office there. You could expand your practice to international law. This is what I was afraid of. That eventually, the job would matter more than the family again. No, he pulled me close. If you don't want to go, we don't go. Simple as that. The family comes first. Always. What if I said I wanted to think about it? Then we think about it. Together. We make the decision as a family. We held a family meeting, something we'd instituted for major decisions. The twins, now 10, had strong opinions. Christopher wanted to know about the school science programs. Sophia was excited about learning Mandarin and Malay. James, 7 and thoughtful, worried about leaving his friends, but was intrigued by the adventure. Victoria, 3 and fearless, just wanted to know if Singapore had ice cream. Let's vote. Sophia suggested. Democratic family decision. It has to be unanimous. Christopher added. We all go or we all stay. The vote was 4-1 in favor, with James dissenting. But after a long discussion about how we'd stay connected to New York, how we'd visit often, how we'd make new friends together, he changed his vote. Singapore was a revelation. The children thrived in the international environment. Christopher joined the Robotics Club and Astronomy Society. Sophia became fluent in Mandarin within a year. James found his confidence in martial arts. Victoria charmed everyone at her preschool with her mix of languages and stubborn insistence on wearing princess dresses with soccer cleats. Donovan and I found our rhythm too. He ran the Asian division with unprecedented success, but never at the family's expense. Board meetings scheduled around school plays. Billion-dollar deals postponed for birthday parties. He'd learned the lesson, truly learned it. That success without family to share it with was just expensive failure. I built my practice into something extraordinary. International custody disputes, diplomatic immunity cases, the kind of complex legal situations that required someone who understood both law and human nature. The twins often came to my office after school, doing homework while I worked, occasionally offering surprisingly insightful observations about my cases. "You're going to be a lawyer like Mom," James told Sophia one day. "No, I'm going to be a judge," Sophia corrected. "Make the decisions instead of arguing them." "I'm going to be an astronomer," Christopher said. "Laws of physics are more reliable than laws of people." "What about you, James?" I asked. "I'm going to be a dad," he said simply. "A really good dad, like Dad is now." Donovan overheard from the doorway, and I saw him brush away tears. Later, he told me it was the greatest compliment he'd ever received. 5 years in Singapore passed like a dream. The twins entered their teenage years with the confidence of children who'd lived internationally. James grew from a quiet boy into a thoughtful young man. Victoria became bilingual, then trilingual, absorbing languages like a sponge. And Donovan and I fell in love again, or continued falling, or simply settled into the kind of love that comes from choosing each other daily for years. It wasn't the desperate passion of our first marriage or the careful reconstruction of our second. It was something deeper, rooted in shared purpose and genuine partnership. When you know someone can destroy you and choose to love them anyway, that's real love. He told me one night, standing on our balcony overlooking Singapore's lights. When you've seen them at their worst and still see their best, that's the love that lasts. "You destroyed me first," I reminded him, "and you resurrected me after. We're even." We returned to New York when Christopher and Sophia were 15, ready for the American high school experience they'd chosen. James, 12, was excited about joining his siblings at the same school. Victoria, 8, was furious about leaving her best friend but excited about seeing snow again. The readjustment was harder than expected. The twins had become third-culture kids, not quite American anymore, but not quite anything else either. James struggled with the intensity of American academics. Victoria missed speaking Mandarin daily. But we adapted, as we always did. Family dinners where everyone shared their daily challenges. Weekend trips to maintain our global perspective. Summers split between Paris, Singapore, and New York, giving the children roots in multiple worlds. On our 10th wedding anniversary, second wedding that is, Donovan surprised me with a party. Not the corporate affairs he used to throw, but a genuine celebration with people who mattered. Francine, now in her 80s but still sharp. My colleagues who'd become friends. The children's teachers who'd become like family. 10 years ago, I married this woman for the second time, Donovan said in his speech. The first time, I married her for the wrong reasons and lost her through my own stupidity. The second time, I married her for the right reasons. Because she's brilliant, compassionate, and strong enough to forgive the unforgivable. Because she gave me 4 incredible children and the chance to be the father I never thought I could be. Because she showed me that success isn't measured in billions, but in bedtime stories and family dinners, and being present for the people who matter. Mom's crying. Victoria announced loudly, making everyone laugh. "Happy tears, baby," I assured her. The best kind. The twins, now Harvard-bound, Christopher for astrophysics and Sophia for international law, raised their glasses of sparkling cider. "To our parents," Christopher said, "who showed us that love isn't perfect, but it's worth fighting for." "To second chances," Sophia added, "and third and fourth, and as many as it takes." "To family," James said quietly, "however it comes together." "To ice cream," Victoria shouted, because she was 8 and had priorities. That night, after the party, after the children were asleep, Donovan and I stood in our bedroom, the same one we'd shared in our first marriage, but now filled with evidence of our full life. Children's artwork, family photos, the beautiful chaos of a life lived together. "Do you ever regret the 7 years?" he asked. "The time we lost." "They weren't lost," I said. "They were preparation." I needed to become who I am. You needed to become who you are. The twins needed to exist. James needed to be born. Everything happened exactly as it should have, even the painful parts. You really believe that? I believe we have 4 incredible children who wouldn't exist if we'd done things differently. I believe we have a love that's been tested and proven. I believe second chances are gifts that shouldn't be questioned, just treasured. When did you become so wise? Sometime between the first labor and the fourth. Or maybe when I realized that holding on to anger was like holding on to fire. It only burns the person carrying it. I love you, he said, the words worn smooth by daily use, but no less meaningful. I love you too. All of you. The man you were, who gave me the twins. The man you became, who earned forgiveness. The man you are, who chooses us every day. Forever this time. No more breaks, no more separations, no more running. Forever. I agreed. Though given our history, I'm keeping my law license active. Just in case I need to defend you again. Or divorce me again. That's not funny. It's a little funny. We're probably the only couple who've divorced each other once and married each other twice. And had 4 children across 2 marriages with a 7-year gap. We're either really bad at this or really good at it. We're really good at being bad at it until we figured out how to be good at it. That might be the most romantic thing you've ever said. If you're watching this, still here after this long journey, remember this. Love isn't about getting it right the first time. Sometimes it's about getting it wrong, learning from it, and being brave enough to try again. Sometimes the person who breaks your heart is also the only one who can put it back together. Sometimes forgiveness isn't about forgetting, but about choosing to remember differently. The twins are 18 now, off to college, brilliant and confident and kind. James is 15, quiet but strong, a protector of those smaller than him. Victoria is 11, a force of nature who speaks 4 languages and takes no prisoners on the soccer field. And Donovan and I, we're still here, still choosing each other, still learning and growing and occasionally fighting and always making up. We're proof that sometimes the longest road leads to the best destination. That sometimes you have to lose everything to understand what everything really means. We weren't a fairy tale. We were so. Betrayal and abandonment. It middle was filled with rage and revenge, secret children and public revelations. But our ending, which is really just another beginning, is about forgiveness and hope and the beautiful chaos of a life lived together. Some people get forever on the first try. We had to earn ours. And maybe that makes it worth more. Maybe the love you have to fight for, fail at, and rebuild is the strongest kind. Maybe second chances aren't consolation prizes, but grand prizes for those brave enough to claim them. The twins want to know their origin story, the real one, not the sanitized version we've been telling. They're old enough now to understand that love is complex, that parents are human, that families can be broken and rebuilt and still be whole. So we'll tell them about the medical lies and the divorce, about the 7 years of silence and the secret pregnancies, about the revenge that became reconciliation, about how sometimes the person who hurts you most is also the person who loves you best, once they learn how. And they'll probably be appalled and amazed in equal measure. But they'll understand that they exist because of love, even broken love. That they were chosen, fought for, protected. That their parents' story, however messy, led to them. That's the thing about family. It doesn't have to be perfect for you. It just has to be yours, chosen and cherished, rebuilt as many times as necessary. We are the Blackmore family, complicated and chaotic, rebuilt from ruins, stronger for our scars. Living proof that sometimes the best families are the ones that shouldn't exist, but do anyway. And we're happy. Genuinely, messily, impossibly happy. Sometimes that's the best revenge of all. Not destruction, but reconstruction. Not winning, but choosing to play a different game entirely. Not forgetting the past, but using it as fertilizer for a better future. Love wins. Not always on the first try. Sometimes not even on the second. But if you're brave enough to keep trying, love wins. It won in a courthouse where a woman saved the man who'd broken her. It won in a hotel room where twins met their father without knowing it. It won in a boardroom where truth was finally spoken. It won in a delivery room where second chances were born. It won in a house in Westchester filled with laughter and arguments and too many shoes by the door. It's still winning, every day, in small moments and grand gestures, in forgiveness offered and received, in the choice to stay and grow and love despite the sharp memory of pain. That's our story. The real one, the messy one, the true one. And it's not over. It's just beginning again, as all the best stories do, with possibility and hope and the absolute certainty that whatever comes next, we'll face it together. All 6 of us. The Blackmore family. Perfectly imperfect. Forever and finally home.